Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey now, today we're going to take a look at Loopin Chewie from Hasbro. This is a Star Wars re-theme of the children's game Loopin Louie, which has become something of a cult hit among, even though it's a kid's game, among adult board gaming fans at conventions and things like that. And primarily because of that, I've never personally played it. I just thought it looked kind of silly and dumb anyways. But I got caught up in the fervor of the Force Friday and all these board game releases coming out for Star Wars, and I wanted to finally check out this game and see what it was like. Now, the re-theme of this, it's essentially the same game mechanically, other than the fact that I think Loopin Louie went to 4 players. This one only goes to 3, which is kind of a big deal. But the re-theme here is that instead of a guy in like a biplane going around trying to knock chickens out of coops for some reason, this is a gigantic Chewie, a gigantic to scale Chewie hanging out of the Millennium Falcon, going around in a circle trying to knock Stormtrooper tokens out of, I don't know, Star Destroyers or mini Death Stars, what they're supposed to represent for the players, and so on. And you are just trying to, it's physically a motorized Chewie spinning around, and you have to use your little paddle to knock him out of, to keep your Stormtroopers out of harm's way and knock Chewie into your opponent's Stormtroopers. That's the entirety of the game, but let me show you how it works in practice. Then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think.
Jedi. Jedi uses the Force.
Alright, let me show you Loopin Chewie. This is a competitive game for 2 or 3 players. Now, if you only want to play with 2 players, you'll just take off one of these arm sections. It's as simple as that, although it's not nearly as interesting without the full complement of 3 players. The only other little bit of setup, well, you do have to set like everything up here. These things have to be assembled, although it's pretty easy. You just have to, these actually come pre-assembled. You just attach the whole gray unit onto the central base. It takes 2 AA batteries, and then you're going to put the main Chewie unit here. You're going to stand him face up, and then you're going to attach the unit very simply into the center of that. There's also stickers that you put onto the little Stormtrooper tokens here, and also there's a big sticker that you put on the Loopin Chewie and the Death Star thing here. Oh, look at that. But so not too much setup involved. But once you have that all going, and here I guess I'll show you Chewie himself and what his miniature looks like, which is nothing really to write home about, but neat enough. So once you have that all, you are going to be ready to go. Now the goal here is to knock all of your opponent's Stormtroopers out of their Star Destroyers, Death Stars, whatever they're supposed to be. If you are the last person left standing with at least 1 chip left in your little hangar bay there, then you are going to win the game. It's as simple as that. The only other thing that you have to decide is whether you want to be on easy mode or hard mode. If you're on hard mode, you leave your paddle out straight like this. If you want to be on easy mode, you just flip it around like this. Just essentially, it makes it easier to hit Chewie when you have it horizontal as opposed to straight like this. But in any event, when you're ready to go, you're going to hit the button, and there he goes. He's going to slowly come down. Let's see how this works with only 1 person to demonstrate. Sometimes it takes a minute, so let me just give it a little bit of a boost there. He will swivel down, and he is eventually going to hit one of the little Stormtrooper bays here. So there we go. Let's see if I can do more than 1 at a time. There you go. Hits 1. Boom. There's that. Whoa, look at that. Nice. But obviously you would be trying to defend this. And that's it. That is seriously the entire game. He just goes around and around and around, and you try to avoid having him hit your Stormtroopers, and sometimes he'll get stuck up there like that for a little while. And there is a tiny bit of strategy trying to... It looks like this one is kind of hit. There you go. There's a tiny bit of strategy in trying to hit it in just such a way that it hits your opponents awkwardly or makes it harder for them to hit. But other than that, it's really pretty simple. That is Loopin Chewie. It's as simple as that. Last person left standing with token, at least 1 token left, is the winner of the game. Let's get to my final thoughts. Okay, so I had mentioned I never played Loopin' Louie before. I was curious what it would be like, and this game pretty much confirmed my suspicions that it's pretty stupid. There's not much to this game at all. There's very, very little strategy. I suppose you can massage the paddle and hitting Chewie in just such a way to get him to go where you kind of sort of want him to go and knock your opponent's stuff out of the way, but that is the absolute limit of the amount of strategy in this game. Other than that, I think it's just an endurance test of how long can you sit there and wait for the game to end and for the other players to just screw up and mess up. Now, having said all of that, there is a very base amount of fun to be had here, and the people that I played it with enjoyed it, and I did enjoy it to a degree. I mean, I think for the price tag and for what it is and for the spectacle of it, and to get people to ask about it and be like, hey, is that a giant Chewbacca hanging out of the Millennium Falcon? What on earth is he doing? For all of that, I actually think this might be worth it. I mean, especially if you do have kids. This is primarily a kids game. I know that a lot of adults have glommed onto the whole Loopin franchise. But for me, it was just silly fun. And a lot of people who I mentioned it to were like, wow, I really want to play that. Let's bust it out. So it does have a reaction. And hey, if you're going to get a version of it, I think that Millennium Falcon and Chewbacca is probably better. Killing Stormtroopers is probably better than a guy killing chickens for some bizarre reason. It is a bummer that it's only to 3 players. I mean, I never had the experience of playing with 4 with Loopin' Louie, but I can imagine it would be much more enjoyable and fun with more players. Hell, I mean, 5 or 6 would probably be even better than that. But for what it is, for its price, for the fact that it can be a very accessible and casual game and just kind of dumb, silly fun, I think it's definitely worth a try. It's not going to knock your socks off, but you might also be surprised by how much you enjoy it. That is Loopin Chewie from Hasbro. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.